debris here, all of the things from the trees to make a path, and so weeds wouldn't grow. And it went right over a path. Now, I have a question for you. What is the Chumash people's favorite food? What is it?
Fish, wheel, and deer.
Okay, you're very good. Does anybody else have an answer? What, Brian? What?
Acorns.
Acorn. How did you know?
I live in Amber.
You read it in the book. And what did they do with the acorns? They would mash it. Ooh, we have some acorns here. Dylan, would you mash? And they would have mortar and pestles. Okay. It's Alicia's turn. And this would be in mano. And they would smash. And if you look down at that hole there in the stone, see this hole down there? That's where they would mash the acorns. Because it's like a mortar and pestle. And this would be deeper. And guess what? I was here about an hour ago, and we saw two bluebirds here with beautiful pink chests. And they were beautiful blue, and they drank out of it. So we couldn't mash the acorns in half. But the acorns they would mix with rabbit meat or with fish. Now, the Chumash loved to celebrate, and they would have torches. Go to that plant with the blue flowers, break off a leaf and smell it.
You want to smell it? Let me see.
It is. Isn't it fragrant? And the Chumash people, the Chumash people would make torches. These plants here are the plants that Chumash people use. Did they make bows and arrows? Did they make bows and arrows? Yes. And we have a tree called an ironwood tree. Do not break it, but feel how strong
A ver, toma.
Santa Cruz Island and feel the branches.
Nos hacían, ¿lo quieres?
Can you feel how strong they are? And this is what they would make the bows and arrows from. Now, what was their favorite food? What was it? Acorns. And this would be an acorn tree. And this would be an acorn tree. Look at the blueberry.
Is that squirrel? No. Where is it? Oh, there. Frida.
No, boys and girls.
Come on.
Brian.
Boys and girls?
Brian. Frida. Frida.
Yeah, the Chumash love ceremony. And I have what's a nieto? I have a nieto named Ricardo Dominguez Gutierrez. And guess what? Read the sign for me. All of you read the sign. Say, and this would be the one that they would make torches of. smell it. You can, if you break it, you can smell it. And they would burn the sages. In their houses, they would have mice and rats, and they would burn the torches. Now,
You didn't get to smell it? Break it?
yes, and my grandson Ricardo is a break dancer, and he burns the white sage all the time, so I think he won't break a leg. Now, this is the area where we have the Chumash food. Down below is where we have the Franciscan food. Do any of you like chocolate? Come over to this street. It's not chocolate, but it is pears. Look at the pods. Look at all of the pods. And they would use this. Now, boys and girls, please come and sit on the mat. The Chumash people were just brilliant people. They were very intelligent, and they loved coming here to the mission because they learned so much from the Franciscans. The Franciscans came here 230 years ago. How many years ago did the Franciscans come here?
years ago.
Say it again.
280 years ago.
230. 230.
I said
How many missions are there in California?
21.
Oh, you're good. You're brilliant. This is the Queen of the Missions, and this is the only mission that has been going for since it was built 230 years ago. It is the only one. It's very big, and we have 14 men like this, and they wear habits. We tease and we say they wear dresses. This isn't a dress. They dress very simply, and they were here how many years ago?
230 years ago.
230 years ago. And with the Chumash people, how long ago were they here? Oh, that was Franciscan. They found a body in a cliff, and they took the bones, and they can do an analysis of how old things are. It was the body of a woman, and they took her bones, and guess what they did? They did a DNA analysis, and they found that she had been here more than 11,000 years ago.
Whoa.
So whoa is right. Can you imagine? The Chumash people were here more than 11,000 years.
You mean
The
that
Chumash people were here more than,
11,000 years ago.
and say it again. The Chumash people were here more than.
11,000 years.
Good. You got it right. We talked about the torches. I'll pass the torches around. This is white sage, and that's that sage. The Chumash people were amazing. The Chumash people had a name for every plant.
Oh, that smells.
It does smell fragrant.
It smells funny.
The Chumash people had a name for every plant, and they knew which plants were poison. They knew which plants are good to eat, and they knew which plants were good for medicine. And I have a neighbor who's Indian, and when someone is sick in my family, he'll go to the hills and he'll get medicine. These are the Karo, and it's like chocolate. They use plants very, very successfully. Do you think they use these for a wig? No, they would use them to make cords. And this cord, they would use, they would make scoop from the squash. And this cord is made from the agave plant. The agave plant, they would wind it together and it would be very, very strong. I'll pass this around and you can see how strong it is. Now, one of my favorite things is I got to make this. And what would it be, Julian?
A mat?
It would be a mat. It would be a mattress. And the truly reeds, you can pass these around. They're hollow on the inside. And they would make mattresses for these. And they would sit on these. They would use them. Look at this. David, thank you. They would carry things in these mats, okay? And I will pass this around, and Julian, you can sit on it, please. They would also, when people would die, they would wrap the bodies in those mats. And they would also use the tule reeds to make their houses. Look at that house. How would you like to live in a house like this? What do you think? It would be pretty cool. Thank you. And they would make their houses out of that. And you see the cord around, they would use that. And in the close to the ocean, they had many swans. Now, the Chumash people did a lot of celebrating.
It's called the clappers.
The clappers, yes. And they would have ceremonies. And what they would do would be to celebrate. And they didn't have drums, but they would have things like this. And they would shake the rattle. And look at this. They took the shells and they sealed it with tar. Okay? Now, I want to show you the things that the Franciscans brought. How many years ago, the Franciscans? We have 14 men who are Franciscans who live here now. The Franciscans have been here more than 230 years. Boys and girls. How long have the Franciscans been here?
More than 200 years.
230 years, yes. And the Chumash people have been here more than 11,000 years. And when the Franciscans came, guess what? They brought tools like this. And the Franciscans brought all of the plants, and they had gardens. So this would be a hoe and a Julian on those ones. They would have a stick in it so they could hoe. I'll pass this around. And they would make soup. They would feed the Chumash people. Guess how much? 8 pounds of food a day. And they would use these wooden spoons. They would make beef stew. They would make beans. And and this is really interesting. What is this?
A staff.
A staff. Maybe it could be. When I get really old, maybe it would be. But what else would it be used for? Julia. It would be a branding iron. And this would be for the mission. This would be the world. And then a cross on the world. But guess what? The Indians didn't have any cattle, so they brought cattle with them from Mexico. But guess what, Alicia? They didn't have any fences, so they would have to brand the cattle. And who wants to be branded? Okay, Dylan. They would heat up, they'd make it very, very hot. And then they would put it against the cattle. And they would place a mark on the cattle so they could identify which cattle brought to the mission. Another thing they brought was sheep. And the people learned to make rugs and ponchos. And this is wool from the sheep, and they would use these to card the wool. And the sailors were so impressed with the rugs and the ponchos. They were so soft. They did a lot of weaving here, and they would use these. Now, other things to get hot. Oh, I want to show you against the gate. How many missions?
21.
21, you're good. And how long have the Chumash people been here? More than 11,000 years. That's so long ago. And the Franciscans have been here more than 230 years. This is Santa Barbara, and it is the only one that has twin towers, and the only one that has the front is like a Greek temple. Now, this church was built by the Chumash people. Can you imagine? They lived in houses like this. And suddenly, the Chumash people saw the Franciscans, and they built buildings like that. They also built a Pueblo. That street is called Pueblo Street, and they had a huge Pueblo, and their houses would have a first floor and a balcony, and it was the biggest Pueblo from all the way to Alaska to South America, and it went right down that street. So this church was for the Chumash people. Now, do you have any questions? Any questions? Oh, okay. Good, thank you for calling it. No questions? Yeah.
Did they ever have like horses?
Oh, they did have horses, but especially they did have horses, and the Chumash people would work on the ranches, and the soldiers in the Presidio would have 4 or 5 horses. And guess what? Almost 5,000 Chumash people came here to live because they got 8 pounds of food a day. They love to learn technology. And in 11,000 years, they had never learned how to read and write. And the Padres, the Franciscans, taught them how to read and write. They had to learn the Chumash language, and they learned how to read and write. Any other questions? Your questions are good. Come back and visit the mission someday, now that you've visited the
Can I hold this?
And one more thing. These were the boats they had, and the boats amazed them. They decorated them with the abalone shell. So now, come and line up and get your abalone. These were the things that the Chumash people made. And they were so good at building the houses in Santa Barbara. They got a lot of money, and when the Pueblo was destroyed by the soldiers, they found blue willow pattern, they found many things. The Chumash people became creative.
Thank you.
For you, Isabel. For you, Mary. For you, Brian. For you, Kevin. And for you, Jonathan. And for you, Joy. Whoops. And for you, Dylan. Now, thank you so much for coming to visit. Now, one day, are they going to get to see the art on the front of the mission? Oh, we have a lot of fiestas here. And in August, they sing and dance, and it's just wonderful. So, go and see the paintings and
Thank
come
you.
back again.
So much.
Thank